Hello, Aries. Not everyone who walks into your life is here to bring you something good. Some people come only to test your faith in yourself. And if you've been feeling a strange energy lately, heavy, unexplainable, it might be because the universe is whispering something. You haven't had the courage to admit that this person is no longer right for you. Today, we'll open the door to a truth that isn't easy to hear, but one that must be heard. To protect the light within you, and that journey starts with the presence that's been silently draining you. Day after day, who are they? And why does their energy pull something out of you piece by piece? Let's step into it together. Have you ever stood next to someone and felt your body shrink back for no reason at all? They didn't say anything wrong. They spoke kindly. They even smiled at you. But every time they got closer, it felt like a door inside your heart quietly shut. Maybe you brushed it off and told yourself, "I'm overthinking. They seem nice. Maybe I'm just too sensitive." But the truth is, your body was speaking on behalf of your soul and your intuition. It never lies. Aries, you are a soul of pure light, but light doesn't mean you always have to keep your door open. Some people only come to witness your light, then slowly try to dim it. You know, I've met many people who carry the same fire as you, strong, proud, full of passion, but deep inside, they're still God's children, tough yet tender, driven to prove themselves, yet quietly aching to be trusted, to be loved in the right way. And because of that, you often open your heart to those who don't deserve it. Have you ever sat quietly in a room beside someone who didn't do anything, but somehow kept you awake at night? Not because of what they did, because their energy stirred something in your soul. Have you ever had a conversation that left you feeling drained? As if they didn't take your money, didn't take your time, but still, they took your peace. That inner calm you never offered, yet somehow they walked away with it. God never lets us get lost without leaving signs. He sends unspoken feelings, repeating dreams, and subtle touches that stir up fears you can't explain. But what's truly scary isn't the deceiver. It's the moment you stop trusting your own inner voice. You start thinking, maybe I'm being too suspicious. Maybe I need to grow up. Maybe I should just accept these strange vibes. No, you don't have to accept anything that makes you shrink. No connection is worth trading your inner peace. No gentle words are worth ignoring the screams of your intuition. We were raised to be polite, kind, forgiving, but God, He gave us the right to discern. Some souls were sent for you to help, and some to teach you how to close the door. Aries, you are not obligated to always be the understanding one. You don't have to stay in places where your heart doesn't feel safe. You are not a light for just anyone to walk into. You can be kind and still choose to walk away from toxic energy. You can be compassionate and still build strong, healthy boundaries for yourself. I know, you once wanted to believe in the good inside them. You thought, if I'm good enough, sincere enough, maybe they'll change. But here's a truth you need to hear. No one changes just because you love them deeply. And your intuition, the light within you, has been trying to warn you through sleepless nights, that sharp pull in your chest, that vague anxiety you couldn't explain. But maybe you stayed silent to avoid hurting anyone. You closed your eyes just to keep a connection alive, even though you knew it wasn't right. And sometimes, that silence becomes a trap. I want you to hear this, Aries. You don't need hard evidence to walk away from someone whose energy makes you feel unsafe. Your feelings are enough. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You just need to leave, because God always walks with the soul who chooses to protect their peace. If you're listening to this, and something in your heart just went quiet for a moment, then maybe your soul is whispering, "Finally, someone understands what I've been feeling." And if you've ever been through this, stayed too long, ignored your intuition just to hold on to someone, then let me hold you with all my gratitude, because you were brave. But now I want you to be brave in a new way, brave enough to listen to your soul, share your story, not to shame anyone, but so someone else just like you won't feel alone. Leave a comment, a word, an emoji, a dot. Let's heal together through truth. Some doors only need to close once, with a single moment of not feeling safe. And if you ever ignored that gut feeling, then you'll understand this next part all too well, because sometimes the person who endangers your soul is not a stranger, it's the one you once held the tightest. The world doesn't always warn you with thunder. Sometimes the most dangerous thing comes disguised as a hug, a gentle question, a quiet dinner, a person who's always there, always listening, always showing up at just the right moment to appear like they care. They enter your life as a friend, as a companion, and you in your very human trust open every door. You tell them your dreams, your fears, your wounds. You share the softest, most hidden parts of you. The ones you once guarded so carefully because you believe they understand me. But sometimes, understanding doesn't birth compassion. It births control, and for some people, control becomes a weapon. Aries, I know this isn't easy to hear, but be honest with yourself. There was someone who didn't ask about your life out of care. They asked because they wanted to know where to break you without getting caught. They didn't smile for your joy. They smiled to hide the jealousy of watching you rise one level higher. Your enemies don't scream, they whisper. They don't strike you head on. They plant a seed of doubt and then step back, just enough to let you destroy yourself in confusion and self-blame. This is the silent kind of betrayal, and it hurts because it comes from someone you once protected. There is no pain like being wounded by the one you once held gently with clean hands. There is no bitterness like realizing you shared your whole dream with someone who was only waiting to crush it. I once read something in a Buddhist meditation. The one who harms you is the mirror showing you where your trust should have ended. And I believe that. Not everyone who gets close to you comes to love you. Some come to test your ability to protect your light. Some come just to teach you how to say no, how to close the door, how to walk away in silence without apologizing to anyone. You made excuses for them. You thought they must be going through something. You blamed yourself. Maybe I'm too sensitive. But one day, when you feel your emotions no longer belong to you, when their energy makes your heart sink, every time you meet, you'll realize some smiles hide claws. Danger doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with energy. And you, with the sensitive heart of a fire soul, you feel it long before your mind can explain it. There was a woman I once spoke to in her 40s. She told me, "It took me 7 years to realize my best friend had never truly celebrated me. Every time I had something new, she came closer, kinder, but behind her eyes, I saw something dark. That darkness clung to me, left me drained. After every conversation, I thought I was imagining things I didn't want to believe, until one day she was the reason I lost the person I loved most." I'm not telling you this so you can hold on to hatred. I'm telling you so you can recognize not every blessing is sincere, and that's okay. You don't need to hate them. You just need to wake up. And once you see the truth, you have no obligation to keep them in your life. This world is wide enough for you to forgive and walk away, big enough for you to release them without revenge and without hurting yourself more. Someone once asked me, "How do I know who's real?" I said, "Pay attention to how you feel after being around them. Do you grow or do you shrink?" Aries, you are light, and light doesn't need to shine for everyone. It just needs to shine enough for you to see your own path. And if someone always makes that path feel foggy, always makes you doubt yourself, then maybe they don't belong on your journey anymore. You are not cruel for creating distance. You are simply choosing wellness. And if your heart goes quiet hearing this, if a face flashes in your mind as I speak, then maybe your soul is finally remembering what it tried so hard to forget. I invite you to leave a candle in the comments as a whisper to your heart. I am returning to the truth. Sometimes the cruelest thing isn't the pain itself. It's realizing someone destroyed what you love the most, not to take it for themselves, but just to see you lose it. And that is the true beginning of the deepest crack in your life, a crack so subtle you'll never see the hand behind it unless you dare to look closely. There are some relationships that seem unshakable, as if they were written from the deepest, most sacred prayer in your heart. But then one day, just one day, everything suddenly feels unfamiliar. They don't look at you the same way anymore. The texts slow down, the replies get shorter, and even when they're sitting right in front of you, it's like they're not really there. Have you ever felt that, Aries? That strange feeling like you're still in love, still trying, still holding on. But the love itself is growing cold, and you have no idea why. No big argument, no third person stepping in, just coldness and distance. So you start doing what souls who love deeply always do. You blame yourself. Was I too busy? Did I say something wrong? Have I become boring? You go back through every conversation, recall every facial expression, every hug, every time they turn their back on you. As if by finding your mistake, you could fix it and bring it all back. But what you didn't see or didn't want to see was the shadow behind your relationship. Another soul, someone you once trusted, someone you both once called a friend. They didn't barge in loudly. They didn't need to. They only had to drop a few careless words, a raised eyebrow of doubt, a kind comment poisoned with hidden jealousy. I don't think they're being real with you. They said something odd when you weren't around. You give too much and they don't. Drop by drop, they poured that poison into your cup until your love no longer tasted sweet, only bitter with quiet distrust. Aries, real love doesn't disappear overnight. It vanishes only when choked by false concern, by fake kindness, by eyes that smile at you while secretly praying you'll break. And I know, the hardest part isn't losing them, it's realizing the person who caused it wasn't a stranger. It was someone you once protected, someone you welcomed into your home, someone you shared your dreams with, your future with, the one you loved, and they shattered it. Not because they wanted that love, but because they couldn't stand to see you happier than them. That's envy, wearing the mask of friendship. That's darkness, disguised as a caring voice. That's the kind of wound that doesn't bleed, but changes the way you see the one you love. I want you to pause, just for a moment, and ask yourself this: if that love could be destroyed, just by someone else's words, was it ever strong enough to go the distance with you? I'm not denying your feelings. That love was real. The pain is real. But you can't hold on to someone if their heart is so easily swayed by another's voice. I know you once believed that love was destiny, but destiny, Aries, doesn't test you with confusion. It builds you, it strengthens you. It doesn't drag you into the fog with no way out. And if someone did steal away a love you thought was forever, let me tell you this: they didn't steal anything. They cleared the path for you to walk forward. And one day when you look back, you'll see you were never robbed. You were rescued. So if you feel ready, share your story, not to blame, but to remind yourself you made it through something others thought would break you. Don't stay silent. Leave a word, a symbol, a simple sentence, because what you share today might be the light for someone still crying in silence, just like a painting that once felt perfect. Sometimes all it takes is one careless hand with an eraser to blur the most beautiful part. And if you're wondering, why didn't I see it sooner? Maybe the answer isn't in what they did. Maybe it's in who handed them the brush and who was standing quietly behind the canvas. From the very beginning, love, when it's real, is freedom. It doesn't come to make you easier to control, easier to bend, or easier to lead. Love comes to let you be fully yourself and still be held fully in someone's heart. But you know what, Aries? Not everyone who walks into your life in the name of love is here to love you honestly. Some people don't want to stay because they love you. They stay because they don't want to lose their power over you. They come back after breaking you. They send a sweet message after months of silence. They say, "I miss you," or "I wasn't ready back then." But if you're clear-headed, you'll notice they never ask how you've been. They only want to know if your heart is still soft. That's not love, that's control. Have you ever had someone like that? Someone who left without a word and returned when they saw you doing well. Someone who didn't want to lose you, not because you were their great love, but because you were part of their influence. Aries, you are fire. When you love, you burn completely. When you give, you don't calculate. And that's exactly why you're easy to take advantage of, because some people don't come to burn with you. They come to warm themselves by your flame until you run out. Emotional manipulation doesn't always look harsh. Sometimes it looks sweet. Silence so you feel guilty. Withdrawal so you'll chase. Returning just to test if it still hurts. It's a power game, one you should never play, no matter how much you still feel. I know you've said it before. I forgive because I'm strong. But ask yourself, do you forgive to reconnect or to finally breathe again? Forgiveness is not a doorway for them to return. Forgiveness is a gift you send to yourself, so you don't have to live with anger, grief, or shame anymore. So your heart can heal, not because they came back, but because you chose to move forward. Aries, you don't need to control anyone, and you don't need to let anyone control you. Love is not a tug of war. It's 2 feet walking the same direction, not one person orbiting around the other. The one who truly loves you won't leave you guessing. They won't make you shrink just so they can feel bigger. They won't ask, "Where are you going?" They'll ask, "How are you feeling today?" There's a big difference between love and possession. Love opens you up. Possession makes you close off. Love is light. Possession is shadow. Love helps you become the best version of yourself. Possession makes you shrink to fit someone else's mold. If you've ever forgiven someone, not to keep them, but just to finally exhale, leave a broken heart turned into dizzy, because that is the sign of a heart that once broke but chose never to break again. You weren't born to live in someone else's shadow. You are the light, and light doesn't ask permission to shine. I know you've softened before. You once believed love could change a person. You kept quiet to avoid conflict. You forgave just to keep them. But today I hope you forgive, to keep yourself. And when you sit quietly and look back on your journey, you'll see something strange. No matter how hard they tried, no matter what words, emotions, or memories they used to hold you, they could never touch the most sacred part of you, the inner light God placed inside you from the very beginning. And maybe now, it's time for you to be reminded of that, with all the love the universe has been saving just for you. Not everyone who hurt you was stronger than you. And not everyone who walked away in silence did so out of weakness. Some people choose not to retaliate, not to expose, not to scream in the face of injustice. Not because they didn't see it, but because they know there's something far more powerful than accusation. It's called karma. Aries, I know you've been deeply wounded by the very people you once trusted the most, by those who came into your life smiling, only to leave behind cuts you can't even name. You've asked yourself, why do I have to go through this? Why me? Why do the wrong people seem to thrive, while I, someone who's always been sincere, keep getting betrayed? But listen, only those chosen to be strong are taken through journeys like this, and only the souls guarded by ancient light can survive life's storms without losing their essence. You are not alone. You were never alone, even in your darkest hours. When you sat there, quietly crying in a room no one knew about, something unseen was holding you. When you collapsed under the weight of unspoken shocks, some gentle force helped you stand again, even if you didn't know its name. Some call it ancestral spirit, others call it a guardian angel, some say karma, some say divine light, but names don't matter. What matters is you've been protected, even when you didn't know it. Every time you thought you were about to break, you rose again. Every time you thought your faith was gone, you still chose kindness. And that is proof of a divine force, walking beside you every step, every day. And them, the ones who caused the pain, who twisted the truth, who used their words like knives to bleed your dignity and your love, they thought they won. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought they could go on living without consequence. But as the Buddha taught, whatever seed you plant, you must harvest sooner or later. No one escapes. You don't have to witness their karma to know justice exists, because the moment you stop waiting for their downfall, you set yourself free. I once met a middle-aged woman at a meditation retreat. She said, I was betrayed by a best friend of 18 years. At first, I wanted revenge. I wanted to expose it all. But then I chose silence. I chose peace. 4 years later, she lost everything. Not because I did anything, but because you can't live out of alignment forever. When I asked, how did you feel when that happened? She smiled softly. I didn't feel joy, I just felt light, because I didn't let her darkness pull me down to her level. And that is what I want you to remember, Aries. You don't have to prove you're right. You just have to live right and let the universe handle the rest. If you've ever survived something you thought would destroy you, leave a message for the version of you from yesterday. A thank you, a breath, a symbol of survival. You've come further than you thought. You stood up from places no one thought you could, and you did it without hurting anyone. That is the most beautiful kind of victory. Sometimes you don't have to take justice back from others. You just have to keep walking, and justice will come, quietly, but undeniably. And one day, when you're no longer fighting to prove you're worthy, when you stop seeking validation from places that never held love, the universe will open doors you never dared believe were yours. Doors of opportunity, of wealth, of true love, all of it will arrive as a sacred gift for the one who stayed light, even in the darkest night. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people appear just to teach you about boundaries, about choices, and about the courage it takes to walk away even when your heart still loves. Aries, there was a time you thought, if I just try a little harder, be a little more understanding, sacrifice just a little more, then maybe things would get better. You believed your patience could turn someone who didn't love enough into someone who would finally care. You hoped that if you stayed, they would see your worth. But the truth is, the longer some people stay, the more they get used to taking you for granted. And you just keep waiting, waiting for a message, waiting for a change, waiting for an apology, until one day you realize what you're holding onto is no longer a relationship. It's just a memory of what once was, When you walk away from the wrong person, there are no fireworks, no applause, only silence. But it's a sacred silence, the space where your soul can finally breathe again. And then something strange begins to happen. A sum of money you thought was gone suddenly returns. A job door that once slammed shut quietly opens. A new opportunity, a gentle invitation, a whisper from the universe that says, "You did the right thing." Because when you let go of what dims your soul, you make space for something new to arrive. Aries, abundance isn't just money, it's energy flow. And when you're living in a toxic space, whether in love, friendship, or family, that flow gets blocked. The harder you try, the more effort you put in. The more it feels like you're running in sand, because something inside is draining you. But the moment you choose to walk away, to leave behind someone you once called everything, the universe sees that, and it doesn't reward you with words, but with quiet blessings, an unexpected income, a collaboration you didn't seek, a sense of relief you've never felt before, and sometimes a new person, not someone to fix you, but someone to build with you from the ground up. Not someone to untangle your wounds, but someone who honors the healing you've already done. This love is different. It doesn't burn you, it keeps you warm. It doesn't make you lose control, it grounds you. You don't have to pretend to be strong. You don't have to shrink yourself. You get to be fully you. An Aries who once burned too bright got dimmed and is now learning to light up with intention. And one more thing I want you to always carry with you. Silence is a sacred form of protection. You don't need to explain why you left. You don't need to prove you were right. Just keep walking quietly, steadily, like a soul who saw what others didn't and chose to live in truth. You no longer need to be rescued. You are the guide. You don't wait for someone to open the door. You know, when the old door closes, you can turn the handle yourself and walk through. If you've ever let go of something that hurt and received something better in return, share that story. Not because the world needs to know, but because someone out there needs your light to find their way. You never know. Your story could be the reason someone chooses not to go back to the one who once broke them. And no matter how far you've come, I know there's still one thing you haven't fully faced, not because you're weak, but because you once believed the place you left behind was everything. But here's the truth. Some places were only meant to be resting stops, not destinations. And if you're brave enough to keep going, we'll do the hardest thing together, close the chapter while still loving it, and start writing the new one with your own hands. Not every door is meant to be reopened. Not every once closed connection deserves to be revived. And not every old emotion needs to be named again. Aries, I know you love with your whole heart. You give with everything you have. You've gone back before, not just once. You've forgiven, not just once, because you believe people can change. And if someone once hurt you, maybe this time they'll be different. But today I want to say something to you, not from logic, but from the lived truth of my own soul. Not everything old is worth keeping. It's time to write a promise, not to someone else, not to please anyone, but a sacred commitment from your heart to your heart. Take a deep breath. And if this feels true for you, whisper softly, "I will not return to the place where my soul goes silent. I choose what makes my heart expand." Do you feel the peace in that sentence? No resistance, no anger, just clarity. Aries, the strongest kind of protection, doesn't come from building high walls. It doesn't come from acting cold or heartless. It comes from knowing exactly what causes you to shrink and choosing firmly not to go back to it. Yes, you might feel lonely for a while. There may be nights you stare at the ceiling and wonder, was I wrong to walk away from something I once called love? But not all loneliness is empty. Some moments of silence are the foundation of true freedom. Some days with no one around are the days you hear your own voice the loudest. You've lived long enough to know peace doesn't come from holding someone close. It comes from knowing who truly deserves to stand beside you and who doesn't. Now imagine this. You're walking a quiet path, surrounded by still woods, beneath a sky glowing with the soft light of late afternoon. You're not carrying much, just your heart and the belief that you're heading the right way. And along this path, every time you hear a whisper trying to pull you back to something that once broke you, pause, place your hand on your chest, and repeat your promise. I will not return to the place where my soul goes silent. I choose what makes my heart expand. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You've made it through. You've done enough. You don't have to be the strong one to be loved. You just have to be yourself and protect what you truly deserve. And if you still need one last reminder, this is what I want to leave with you like a final blessing at the end of this path. Holding your boundaries is an act of love toward yourself. You are not selfish for saying no to what drains you. You are not cold for choosing peace over chaos. You are not wrong for stopping, simply because you now know what makes you smaller. And if today, out of all the voices in the world, you chose to pause and hear this one, then I want you to know something. You've done something incredibly brave. You've faced yourself. And as someone walking beside you in this unseen world, let me say this, with all the love and truth I can offer, thank you for listening with your whole heart. I know it's not easy to face truths like these, but you did, and that's something not everyone has the courage to do. I hope you have the strength to release what no longer reflects who you are and the grounded grace to receive what's meant for who you're becoming, because from this moment on, everything changes the moment you dare to keep your promise to yourself.